arrangement 260. We're going to fit sound, as you can see, and it's a different speaker than we usually do because we want to fit speaker into the boiler itself.
Yeah, so normally we have to do a connecting wire between the Loco and the tender, which is a little bit tricky, but today we're going to have a go at putting this YouChoos speaker with a 3D printed enclosure into the boiler part.
Yeah, because it has a curved top.
It has a curved top to make it fit. We've previously fitted this Loco with a standard 4-function decoder, so we've had it apart before. So I've got some idea of how it comes apart, but we're going to try and show you every step of the process. So here we go. In addition to the Loco and the decoder and the speaker, there's a few other things we need for this project. We've got our test track set up here with the Hornby Elite controller and that mains drumming there to stop the trains running off the end of the table, and a heavy book on the other end. I heartily recommend Mervyn Peake's Gorman Gas Trilogy for stopping locomotives running off the end of the table. Also tools, we've got a soldering iron and some solder. We've got a good selection of general electrical and gluey and knifey and screwdrivery things. I've got the Loco here in its servicing cradle. There's only 2 screws to undo to get the chassis out, but it's quite fiddly to get to some of them. The first screw is actually under the front truck, which is here in there, but you've got to take the front truck off first to get to that, which is this screw, and to get to that you've got to remove this brake rodding, and the other screw is at the other end here between these 2 plastic things, again under this plastic part here, which is some kind of lever that activates the brake rodding. So that's all got to come out. You've got to get this plastic part in the middle here out so you can get to that screw, and then you've got to get the front truck off that screw so you can get underneath here to that screw to get the whole thing apart. Okay, so we're going to start by taking off the front bogie, which is just 1 screw here. Yes,
we recommend trying to get the brake rodding out the way first, so you don't break that, because this is very good attention to detail.
There's a little spring that comes out with it, and then there's 2 screws, one right at the back here.
Sorry if we're interrupting the camera too much.
Here. That should allow us to remove the entire chassis from the body.
We recommend getting a pot to keep all the tiny bits in because you don't want to lose them.
Come on, you little recalcitrant, trixicated thingamadump. Okay, so with a little bit of fiddling, we've got the chassis out, and you can see there's the old decoder, which we're going to remove in a minute. It's got a plug and socket connector, which makes it nice and easy. Yep. And here's the body, and there's a big lead weight in there, and I'm going to try and put the speaker where that is. So I'm going to have to take the lead weight out. We are going to lose some traction because of that. There'll be less adhesion to the track, but I'm hoping it's going to be a worthwhile payoff. Yep. I might just try and see if we can fit it in without removing the weight, because the speaker is tiny, but we shall see. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is swap in the new decoder and just give that a test using its existing speaker and make sure that all works. So we'll do that next. Here's our Hornby TTS sound decoder. We're using a J36, which is not the same Loco as we've got here, but I'm hoping that the sound will be fairly similar. I mean, steam trains all sound the same, right?
No!
Yes.
Like merchant navy sound different to A4s. Like the whistles are the most important things, really.
These TTS sound decoders are a lot cheaper than the other ones.
Yes.
It's just a case of removing this 8-pin plug from the socket. So there's our old chip, which we're going to keep and use again, probably on another Loco. Now it's a case of putting the new decoder. It should just plug straight back in to the same socket and line up nicely like that. So we've got the new sound decoder connected, and we're just going to do a quick test to make sure that all works. So Simon, fire up the sounds, thank you. Give it a little toot. That's great. And can we just roll it each way? Just check it still moves as it should and the sounds match up. That's great. And back the other way. See the speaker moving as it vibrates with the whistle sounds. Wonderful. Okay, that's great. So now we're going to try and swap this speaker for the much smaller YouChoos speaker. And so for that we're going to need the soldering iron. Let's get soldering. Okay, I'm going to have to cut the wires off the existing speaker.
Yes.
Soldering
iron.
I'm going to leave a little bit of wire hanging off just in case I want to use the speaker again in the future. But I do want as much wire as possible this side, so I've got flexibility with where the new speaker goes. So I'm going to cut it about there. And that's what we call the point of no return. And now I'm going to strip the ends of these, just to expose the copper wire underneath.
Using pliers.
This is my favourite part of railway modelling, the electronics bit. I feel like I'm much better at this than I am at the painting, carpentry,
yes.
any of the other myriad skills that are involved with railway modelling.
He says that he's not very good at painting.
I'm really not. I'm going to tin the wires with a little bit of solder. It just keeps all the strands together and keeps it neat and makes the soldering easy. Why isn't this on? There we go. Looks like it's not very hot. It's been, we need a bit more flux on it. Tip of the
Being
solder.
fast, of course, because we don't want it to get cold.
Yeah, well, being fast is actually really important with soldering because if you keep the soldering iron too long on whatever you're soldering, especially if there's an active component like a computer chip connected to the other end of it, which there is, you can melt it and break it. And then, after that, it doesn't work so well. Okay. So I've connected the new speaker, I haven't soldered it up yet, but I've just pushed the wires through the little holes at each end. I've assumed that that's where you make the electrical connections because I can't see any others. So I think I'm actually just going to do a test of that before I solder it up.
We don't have any instructions, they don't come with them.
And just check that it makes some noise. Simon, please fire up the sound.
Nope.
Aha! Yeah. Okay, it's just because it's not making a very good electrical connection yet because I've not soldered it, but that is working. Okay, so switch it off again and I'll do the solder and then we'll try that again. Here's the actual soldering part, so I'm going to put the iron on. One mustn't forget that the speaker is magnetic and will be attracted to the soldering iron, which makes things a little trickier. Keep up like that. Hopefully that's now going to stay put.
Esther is helping us with the filming
Thank you, Esther. Much appreciated. Yeah, it's not jumping at me now. Iron on. Let both surfaces get hot. Drop on a tiny bit of solder. Done. That's one. Same on the other side. Tiny bit of solder. Make sure it flows and connects the two things, and then
you
release.
can see the smoke coming out of the soldering iron.
Here we go. Yeah, I'm gonna trim those two ends there that are hanging off, and then we'll test it again. Great. That's the soldering done. Let's move that out of the way. Yes, that seems to be working. Give it a toot. Lovely. And move it slightly each way. Yeah. That's great. And then back the other way. Well, it was incredibly fiddly, but I have actually managed to get the speaker and the decoder into the front part of the Loco there without removing the weight. Now, whether it's all going to go back together now, I'm not quite sure, because I'm not sure there's going to be space above the socket for the decoder to fit, but I'm going to give it a go, and I'm hopeful that we might be able to get the speaker and decoder in and not lose the weight, because the weight's quite important. So, let's see how it goes. Sound on. We did it, we managed to get it back together. I've not quite got the front bogey on yet, but the speaker and the decoder are inside. I think it's probably disappeared out of shot right now. I'll roll it back the other way. Let's roll it back into shot. Then move the camera, so let it roll through, steaming. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! And we finally, after a lot of fiddling, got the whole thing back together, and it seems to be working. So, key in all the sounds, Simon. What have we got? Good long toot. Funny sounding toot. Another toot. Long toot. With a little toot on the end. Bit of wheel spin. Coal shoveling.
Classic.
Yeah, classic coal shoveling. Okay, so it's all finished and we've got it all put back together again. So it's time to give it a test on our baseboard and give it a run and see how it goes. So Simon, could you start up the sound? How about a toot?
It doesn't get much better than that.